Most people spend their lives trying to become more liked. They learn how to speak in ways that please others, how to avoid conflict, how to fit into every room they enter. They believe that if enough people approve of them, they will finally become valuable, but psychology teaches us something very different. Approval is temporary, respect is earned, and value is never created by chasing attention. It is created by mastering yourself. Think about the people who leave the strongest impression on you. They are rarely the loudest. They are rarely the ones desperately trying to prove their intelligence or their importance. More often than not, they possess something much quieter. They have emotional control. They move with purpose. They speak only when necessary. Their confidence doesn't demand recognition because it doesn't depend on recognition. Their greatest strength is that they remain steady while everyone else is reacting. This is where true value begins. The world is filled with emotional people. Someone criticizes them and they immediately defend themselves. Someone ignores them and they become anxious. Someone succeeds and they become jealous. Their emotions are constantly being controlled by external events. Without realizing it, they have handed over the keys to their own mind. The disciplined individual does the opposite. Instead of allowing circumstances to dictate their emotional state, they decide who they will be regardless of what happens around them. This is one of the rarest forms of power because it cannot be taken away by another person. Money can disappear. Status can fade. Popularity can vanish overnight. But the ability to remain composed under pressure is an asset that grows stronger every time life tests you. People often mistake calmness for weakness because they confuse silence with surrender. In reality, calmness is one of the most intimidating qualities a person can possess. When someone cannot predict your emotional reactions, they cannot easily manipulate you. Manipulation depends on predictability. It depends on knowing which buttons to press, but when you refuse to react impulsively, those buttons slowly stop working. Imagine two people being publicly criticized. The first immediately argues, raises their voice, and desperately tries to prove they are right. The second simply listens, responds thoughtfully, and refuses to let emotion cloud judgment. Which person appears stronger? Which person seems more confident? The answer is obvious. Strength is not measured by the intensity of your reaction. It is measured by your ability to choose your reaction. This principle has shaped great leaders, successful entrepreneurs, skilled negotiators, and respected thinkers throughout history. They understood that emotional discipline is a competitive advantage. While others waste energy reacting to every distraction, they remain focused on their long-term objectives. This is why discipline matters just as much as calmness. Discipline is often misunderstood as punishment or restriction. But genuine discipline is freedom. It is the ability to act according to your values instead of your moods. Anyone can feel motivated on a good day. Very few people continue working when they are tired, discouraged, or unrecognized. The disciplined person understands something that most people overlook. Every small promise you keep to yourself strengthens your identity. Every promise you break weakens it. When you wake up at the time you promised, you teach your mind that your word matters. When you complete difficult work despite discomfort, you build trust with yourself. When you refuse distractions in pursuit of something meaningful, you become someone who can be relied upon not only by others but by yourself. That internal trust is priceless. Many people spend years searching for confidence without realizing that confidence is built through evidence. Every disciplined action becomes proof that you are capable. Every excuse becomes proof that you are not. Your identity is slowly shaped by the decisions you repeat every single day. This is why consistency is so attractive. People are drawn to those whose behavior remains stable regardless of changing circumstances. Emotional stability creates psychological safety. Others know what to expect from you. They know you won't collapse under pressure or disappear when challenges arise. Over time, this reliability transforms into influence. Influence is rarely created by dramatic moments. It is created through thousands of small demonstrations of integrity. There is another trap that quietly destroys value, and it affects almost everyone at some point in life. It is the endless search for validation. Social approval feels rewarding because our brains are wired to seek acceptance. But when approval becomes a necessity instead of a pleasant bonus, it becomes dangerous. You begin making decisions based on what earns applause instead of what builds character. You become a reflection of other people's expectations rather than an expression of your own principles. Ironically, the more desperately someone seeks approval, the less respect they receive. People instinctively sense insecurity. They recognize when someone is constantly adjusting their personality just to fit in. Authenticity disappears, and with it, genuine influence. The truly valuable person understands that rejection is sometimes the price of integrity. Not everyone will understand your choices. Not everyone will agree with your standards. Some people will leave because your growth makes them uncomfortable. Let them leave. Your responsibility is not to convince everyone to stay. Your responsibility is to become someone worthy of your own respect. As your emotional independence grows, something fascinating begins to happen. You stop trying to control how others see you because you have learned to control how you see yourself. That shift changes everything. Your conversations become calmer, your decisions become wiser, your relationships become healthier because they are no longer built on desperation or fear. People begin to notice the difference. They may not even be able to explain it, but they feel it. They sense that your peace cannot be purchased with compliments or destroyed by criticism. They recognize that your confidence comes from within, not from the opinions surrounding you, and that is the beginning of becoming truly rare. Because rare people are not rare due to extraordinary talent alone. They are rare because they have mastered what most people never even attempt to master: their own minds. Before you can become someone others fear losing, you must first become someone who no longer fears losing the approval of others. Emotional independence is the foundation upon which every lasting form of influence is built. Once you master yourself, the next step is learning why protecting your time, attention, and availability makes your value impossible to ignore. Once you have learned to master your emotions instead of being ruled by them, a remarkable transformation begins. You stop looking outward for your sense of worth and begin building it from within. But inner control alone is not enough. If you want to become truly valuable, you must also understand one of the oldest and most powerful principles of human psychology. People value what is scarce. Think about anything that is considered precious in life. Diamonds are valuable because they are rare. Master craftsmen are respected because their skills are uncommon. Exceptional leaders are admired because they are difficult to replace. Scarcity has always shaped perception. It influences economics, relationships, status, and even human attention. The less available something is, the more carefully people consider its importance. Yet most people spend their lives doing exactly the opposite. They make themselves endlessly available. They answer every message within seconds. They agree to every invitation. They constantly explain themselves, constantly seek reassurance, constantly prove their loyalty. They believe that giving more access will create stronger relationships. In reality, unlimited access often produces the opposite effect. Familiarity without boundaries breeds complacency. People stop appreciating what they can have whenever they want. This is not about becoming cold or arrogant. It is about understanding the psychology of value. Consider the person who is always available to solve everyone else's problems, but neglects their own goals. At first, people appreciate their generosity, but over time, that generosity becomes an expectation. Their time is no longer viewed as valuable because they have taught others that it comes without limits. Now compare that to someone who protects their schedule carefully. They are kind, respectful, and present when it matters, but they do not sacrifice their priorities simply to avoid disappointing others. When they commit, they are fully engaged. When they decline, they do so without guilt or lengthy explanations. Their attention becomes meaningful because it is intentional rather than automatic. That difference changes everything. One of the greatest misconceptions is that saying yes makes people like you more. In the short term, it often does. But saying yes to everything slowly teaches others that your boundaries are flexible and your priorities are negotiable. Every unnecessary compromise sends a quiet message. My time is less important than yours. Hi, Val. You individuals send a different message, not through words, but through behavior. They understand that every yes is also a no. Saying yes to one unnecessary obligation often means saying no to personal growth, deep work, rest, family, or meaningful opportunities. Because they recognize this, they choose carefully. Their decisions are deliberate rather than emotional. Notice something about the people who command genuine respect. They are rarely rushing to please everyone. They are focused. They know where their energy belongs. They understand that attention is one of the most valuable currencies in the modern world. In today's society, everyone is fighting for attention. Notifications interrupt every moment. Endless scrolling trains the mind to seek constant stimulation. Conversations are often half listened to because someone is checking another screen. In such an environment, focused attention becomes incredibly rare. When you give someone your complete attention, it carries weight because you are offering something increasingly uncommon. But when your attention is scattered across dozens of distractions, it loses its value. The same principle applies to your availability. If everyone has unlimited access to you, your presence begins to feel ordinary instead of meaningful. This is why mystery has always fascinated people. Human beings are naturally curious. Our minds are drawn toward unanswered questions more than completed stories. We remember unfinished conversations more vividly than predictable ones. We think longer about someone who remains composed and selective than someone who reveals everything immediately. Many people mistakenly believe they must constantly explain themselves to maintain relationships. They justify every decision, defend every boundary, and answer every criticism. But excessive explanation often weakens your position because it suggests that your choices require external approval. The calm, disciplined individual understands something different. They know that not every opinion deserves a response. Not every misunderstanding requires correction. Not every invitation deserves acceptance. Sometimes silence communicates confidence more effectively than 1,000 carefully chosen words. This does not mean becoming emotionally distant. It means becoming emotionally intentional. There is an enormous difference between isolation and selectivity. Isolation comes from fear. Selectivity comes from purpose. The person who is selective is not hiding from people. They are protecting what matters most: their peace, their focus, and their future. Think about your daily life. How much of your energy is spent reacting instead of creating? How many hours disappear because you felt obligated to answer every request immediately? How often have you sacrificed meaningful progress simply because you were afraid someone might think you were selfish? These small decisions quietly determine your future. Every unnecessary distraction steals momentum. Every weak boundary weakens self-respect, Every moment spent living according to other people's expectations delays the life you're capable of building. The most influential people understand that success is not built by doing more. It is built by eliminating what does not deserve their attention. As your standards rise, your circle often becomes smaller. This can feel uncomfortable at first because society teaches us to measure success by popularity. But popularity and value are not the same thing. A rare book is not valuable because everyone owns it. It is valuable because few people do. Likewise, your greatest strength is not being available to everyone. It is being fully present for the people, opportunities, and responsibilities that align with your highest principles. As you become more disciplined with your time, your words, and your attention, something subtle begins to happen. People notice your absence. They recognize that your presence is earned, not guaranteed. Conversations with you become more meaningful because they are not constant. Your opinions carry greater weight because you do not speak merely to fill silence. Without demanding respect, you begin receiving it. Without chasing attention, you begin attracting it. Without trying to appear important, your importance quietly grows. That is the paradox of human psychology. The less desperately you seek significance, the more significant you become. And yet this is only part of the transformation. Protecting your time and becoming selective creates scarcity, but scarcity alone is not enough. If there is no substance behind the scarcity, it eventually becomes empty performance. The final step is to build yourself into someone whose character, competence, and purpose become so exceptional that your absence leaves a space no one else can easily fill. By now, you understand that becoming valuable is not about demanding attention. It begins with mastering your emotions, refusing to let the opinions of others dictate your state of mind. It continues by protecting your time, setting boundaries, and understanding that scarcity increases perceived value. But there is one final lesson that separates those who are merely respected from those who become truly unforgettable. It is this: your greatest source of power is not what you possess today. It is the person you are continuously becoming. Most people spend their energy trying to look valuable. They carefully craft an image, display symbols of success, or seek recognition through titles and applause. They invest more in appearance than in substance. For a while, this strategy can work. People may be impressed by confidence that seems effortless or success that appears glamorous. But appearances are fragile. The moment they are questioned, they begin to crumble. Real value is different. It does not depend on being seen. It depends on being capable. When you become exceptionally capable, people do not need to be convinced of your worth. They experience it. Your work speaks before you do. Your discipline becomes visible through your consistency. Your integrity becomes evident through your decisions. And your reputation grows quietly because it is supported by reality rather than performance. This is why the pursuit of excellence must become a lifelong commitment. Every day presents a choice. You can remain who you were yesterday, relying on familiar habits and familiar excuses, or you can become slightly more skilled, slightly wiser, slightly more disciplined than the person you were before. These improvements may seem insignificant at first, but over months and years, they compound into something extraordinary. Imagine two individuals beginning from the same place. Both have similar intelligence, similar opportunities, and similar ambitions. One chooses comfort whenever possible. They avoid difficult conversations, postpone learning new skills, and wait for motivation before taking action. The other embraces discomfort as a teacher. They read consistently, refine their craft, strengthen their body, develop emotional resilience, and seek feedback instead of avoiding it. The difference between them is almost invisible after 1 week. It becomes noticeable after 1 year. After 10 years, they appear to be completely different people. This is the quiet power of continuous self-improvement. It transforms ordinary individuals into rare ones, not through dramatic breakthroughs, but through disciplined repetition. One of the most valuable qualities you can develop is competence. Competence creates confidence that does not need validation because it is rooted in experience. When you have invested thousands of hours into mastering your craft, criticism becomes information rather than an attack. Failure becomes feedback rather than proof of inadequacy. That kind of confidence cannot be borrowed. It cannot be purchased, it must be earned. People instinctively trust those who demonstrate competence. Whether you are leading a business, building a relationship, or pursuing a meaningful purpose, your ability to consistently deliver results creates a form of authority that no amount of self-promotion can replace. But competence alone is not enough. Without character, talent eventually loses its influence. Character is revealed when no one is watching. It is reflected in the promises you keep, the temptations you resist, and the principles you refuse to compromise. It is easy to appear disciplined when success is guaranteed. It is much harder to remain disciplined when progress is slow and recognition is absent. Yet those unseen moments shape your future more than public victories ever will. The strongest people are not those who never experience fear or doubt. They are those who refuse to allow fear to make their decisions. Emotional resilience is built every time you continue despite uncertainty. It grows every time disappointment becomes determination instead of defeat. Life will test you repeatedly. There will be rejection, misunderstanding, betrayal, and failure. These experiences are unavoidable. The question is not whether they will happen. The question is what they will make of you. Some people allow hardship to make them bitter. Others allow hardship to make them better. The choice belongs to you. There is another dimension of becoming irreplaceable that many people ignore: financial independence. Money itself is not the ultimate goal, but dependence limits freedom. When your survival depends entirely on pleasing others, your decisions become compromised. You hesitate to speak honestly. You tolerate disrespect. You remain in situations that no longer serve your growth because leaving feels too risky. True independence begins when you reduce the number of things capable of controlling your choices. Financial discipline, emotional discipline, and intellectual discipline all reinforce one another. Together, they create a person who cannot easily be manipulated because their identity is built on internal strength rather than external approval. This is why truly valuable people never chase. They do not chase friendships that repeatedly disrespect them. They do not chase relationships built on inconsistency. They do not chase opportunities that require abandoning their principles. Instead, they become the kind of person opportunities naturally seek. This does not happen through arrogance. It happens through preparation. When your skills are rare, your standards are high, and your character is trustworthy, your presence becomes increasingly difficult to replace. Employers recognize it, friends appreciate it, partners value it. Even those who once overlooked you begin to notice the difference. Ironically, the moment you stop chasing validation is often the moment respect begins to arrive, not because people suddenly changed. Because you did. Your identity is no longer built around convincing others of your worth. It is built around becoming worthy regardless of who is watching. And perhaps this is the deepest lesson of all. The goal is not to make people fear you. The goal is not to manipulate others into dependence. The goal is to cultivate such genuine excellence, reliability, wisdom, and integrity that your absence carries weight because your presence consistently added value. People should not fear losing access to you because you controlled them. They should fear losing access because your calm brought clarity, your discipline inspired trust, Your wisdom encouraged growth, and your character elevated everyone fortunate enough to know you. That kind of influence cannot be manufactured. It is earned through years of invisible effort. Every book you read when no one notices, every promise you keep when breaking it would be easier, every difficult decision made according to principle instead of convenience, every hour spent improving rather than complaining, those moments accumulate into a life that commands quiet respect. One day, people will wonder how you became so composed, so capable, and so difficult to replace. They will assume you were born with unusual confidence or extraordinary talent. They will not see the countless mornings you chose discipline over comfort, the evenings you chose learning over distraction, or the moments you remained calm while others surrendered to emotion. That is the secret they rarely understand. Greatness is not created in public. It is built in private, one disciplined decision at a time. So begin today, protect your peace, guard your time, develop rare skills, build unwavering character. Let your value come from what you consistently contribute, rather than what you constantly demand. Become the kind of person whose presence makes every room stronger, not because you seek admiration, but because your actions speak louder than your words.